Hello again, it's Brandon White, your local journalism initiative hire for NBC Radio News here in Ronge, Saskatchewan. In February of this year, the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation, or STF, met with Education Minister Gordon Wyant to discuss multi-year contracts. Not only did teachers want more substantial regular raises, but they wanted to discuss the changing nature of classrooms and the fact that they felt they didn't have all the necessary supports in light of government cutbacks. The vote to ratify sanctions would pass with over 90% of teachers. Now, I know what you're thinking. Sanctions? Isn't this old news? Well, sorta. Stick with me. What you're about to see was filmed on March 13th, over a month ago, and shortly before coronavirus, or the COVID-19 pandemic, took over most of our lives. Just 5 days later, on March 18th, Premier Scott Moe would declare a state of emergency. And 5 days after that, he would tell teachers to stay at home. Now, when they did resume work, many were working at a distance over technologies, computers, cell phones. But schools never really did open in the same way.
When we closed our K-12 system and the universities, our post-secondary system had closed, I believe, even previous to that. But when we closed our K-12 system, we provided the students with their marks. We also provided them with the opportunity to continue with their studies and to continue to have access to their curriculum and to their educator through distance learning. So we have not discussed whether or not we'd be reopening schools, and I think for all intents and purposes, we would assume that we likely will not be opening schools here in the province.
Now, as a result, a lot of the wind got taken out of the sails of this sanction story. But recently, on April 22nd, the STF met with the province to develop a tentative new deal. This deal would see 2% raises in the second, third, and fourth years of the contract. Now, for some context, the STF had asked for an 8% raise over 3 years. But sanctions go beyond dollars and cents. Teachers felt that their classrooms were becoming more complex and that they didn't necessarily have the supports that they needed for students amidst government cutbacks. Things like mental health supports, counselors, teachers' aides, English as a second language, these secondary and tertiary aspects of education that were falling by the wayside. So, as we watch some of these older sanctions videos in light of a new deal, let's take these things and these issues in the new COVID context. Will the reasons for sanctions be addressed or made more difficult in this new reality?
Thank you. Can you sign this for teacher awareness and help in the classroom? Where do I sign? Your first name and your last name.
Hi, so my name is Brandon. I work for NBC. What's your name and what grade are you in?
My name is Derek Friesen. I'm in grade 10.
Nice. And what are we doing here? I see a sign that says, "Teachers, let's show the camera the people who hold this generation's future in their hands." So I assume that we're in solidarity for the recent sanctions, yeah?
Yes.
Or in solidarity with teachers for what they seek to gain from these sanctions, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And how many kids do you think are here today?
I really don't know because when we first started, it was like 3 of us. And then a whole group of our school came, and I don't know really how many of us there are.
It seems like a lot, like maybe 75, 100 or something like
Yes.
that. And what's your understanding of what's going on with the teachers?
Well, basically, the government and the teachers aren't coming to agreement. They don't have a contract right now saying that they're working in schools since August, and they're just denying them, like putting too many people in a classroom, and that's really tough for teachers because there's different people with like different abilities and skills and whatnot. It'll just be easier if we were, given the right stuff to.
Have you personally felt the significance of this, or ever underserved in a classroom in Saskatchewan?
Not really, kinda. Well, I mean, I know there's a lot of difference because, like, there's more people who are, like, smarter, that learn faster, and then there's kids who really don't, and they have learning disabilities. But no one pays attention because the teacher is too overwhelmed by how many students there are.
Right. So even though you haven't had difficulty, you're compassionate in that there are kids with greater needs, and when the classroom sizes get bigger and bigger, they're not able to have those needs met. Yeah.
Yeah, because I know I have so many friends that learned just this year that they have learning disabilities, and they're 15, and it took 15 years to, like, learn that.
Wow. So, what do you hope happens? We hope that. Are we trying to get the government to take notice, or what are we doing here?
Yeah, we want to get the government's attention, say hey, this is a huge problem, and can you help us fix it? And I'm really hoping that they get the contract back because the teachers have no reason to be teaching us, and it's such a big thing because they literally hold our futures, like this generation's futures, in their hands. If they just decide not to teach us, then we're all done for. So teachers are very important, and people need to understand that.
Do you agree with the government saying that teachers are turning their backs on students?
No, the teachers are so nice, and that's why so many people turned up today because we have quite a small school, and this is actually a lot going on because the teachers can't be here today, but the students all came out to support them.
Okay, so even though it's very cold, everybody's cold. Doyle's been very nice to let everybody participating in this go inside. We're still out here. We're still fighting. We're still in solidarity with teachers. And do you guys want to come in? Do you want to say anything? No, you're good. You're good. No. Anybody? Well, is there anything you want to say to teachers?
Yeah, teachers are very important, and I just want to know I want them to know that the students care, and that we're literally out here. It's freezing cold. It's way colder than it was supposed to be, and there's kids here in sweaters trying to fight for this. So the teachers are really important.
Come on in. And what was your name again? Sorry.
Derek Friesen.
Nice to meet you.
Hi.
Come on in. Come in. Make sure you're in the cam. So what is your name, and what grade are you in?
I'm Julie Roberts. I am from, I go to school. I'm grade 8.
Nice. And we just went over what we're doing, but do you have anything that you would share about the importance of teachers or class sizes, anything like that?
Teachers actually give us education. They teach us stuff we didn't learn when, So it's very important that we cherish them because they're teaching us to give us their own time to teach us stuff we need to learn.
Very nice. And this kind of movement is happening in a lot of different places. It's not just Ronge, right? So this is a movement that we hope to build on and get national attention for. So it's great that you're here in solidarity. I think it's great what you guys are doing. Did you want to add anything? You're on the periphery. So what's your name and what would you add about this situation?
First name and last name?
Yeah.
My name's Keisha Vermette. I think what we're doing here is pretty great, helping the teachers, support them and our awareness. And I think it's pretty awesome that all these students came out here, and it's cold. So
Yes.
I think it's pretty awesome that they're supporting our teachers here and helping our party do their job.
Nice. And do you think classrooms should change? Do you think they should get bigger, smaller? Do you think it's good enough as it is? What do you think?
I mean, I'm grateful for like all of it and everything, but like I think an improvement of getting it bigger would be good too, because then there'd be like allowed like more students, like more participating with other people to come in. So.
In your experience, in your education, have you felt like you've had enough attention from the teachers, or is it like it's good enough now, but I don't want it to get any worse?
I feel like the teachers, yeah, they give a lot of attention. They help the students lots, and yeah.
But if things were gonna change and classrooms are gonna get bigger and you got less attention, that would be a negative, right?
Yes, it would, but we just gotta hope for the best.
The best.
Yeah.
Well, it means a lot, I'm sure, to both the public and to teachers to see all you kids here freezing your butts off in solidarity. So, thank you for joining me. We're just outside honoring a student protest in favor of some ongoing consultations and negotiations with teachers in the province. A bunch of students outside your office, Mr. Doyle Vermette, MLA for the province of Saskatchewan. What's your take on what's happening?
Well, I think it's very clear the students want to make sure government understands, and the local, I guess as far as myself as the MLA, well aware of their issues and supports that they have for their teachers. And we've been looking at the government for quite some time, and whether it's petitions that my colleague Carla Beck, who's a critic for education, we've been serving in the House about class size, about the number of students, about EA's supports to our classrooms, supports to our kids in our schools, and the funding to education. And seeing the negotiations the way they've gone with the minister, and people are not happy. And I think here's a support that you're seeing by hundreds of students throughout the province. We're seeing rallies all over. And they're asking for...
They're ringing on the phones. It's everywhere.
There you go. So, and they just want to show their support for their teachers, and showing the way, I guess, the teachers support their students. And all of us were students at one time, and you have certain teachers and many teachers that give you good support. And I remember there's those special teachers you always have growing up. And I think these students are making it very clear they have very special teachers that take care of them, and they want to show their support. And to see the group that was here just saying they support the teachers, asking government to negotiate and make sure you're taking care and respecting teachers. And we've seen the way the minister in the House has been just making some of the comments I don't think has made teachers proud. And we're proud of our teachers. They do a great job. There's so much being asked of them. And I think the students came here to show support for everything that the teachers do. And when you see that the activities, whether it's drama, sports, things that are being canceled, and unfortunately the government has to do that, putting the pressure on negotiations and the amount of dollars per student funding. And you see the students and you see teachers saying, well, unfortunately for the teachers, they have very little to bargain and negotiate with, and that's one way they have the extracurricular activity. And I know it's not something that they wanted to do. You've heard that from them, but they're saying, what else do they do to give the government a message saying enough's enough? It's time to give them a fair deal. Make sure that the classes are manageable with students, so they can do the great job that they're doing with their students. And no student should fall behind because of EAs or because of the resources that are being given to the class. So I think what I've seen from the students is they're sending a message to me as the MLA, and I'll carry that to Regina to let them know how many students were here and how unhappy they are with the way the government's been dealing with their teachers and the teachers that they love and respect.
Great answer. We spoke a little bit before the cameras were rolling about the Sask Party's position that they put forward that teachers are turning their back on students. Do you agree with that?
Definitely not. And I know to government to say that, or a minister to refer to that. I know the teachers that I know, and I sat for 9 years on the Board of Education, and all I can say is, as the chair of the board of Northern Light School Division when I was there, before I was the MLA, I see nothing but respect from teachers and dedication and commitment, and that's what I've seen from teachers. So to have anyone, judge teachers that they're turning their back on students, I think the government is the one turning their back on the students and the parents and the teachers. So the government should wear that, not trying to, turn that figure around and that finger and poke at teachers when they should be poking their finger at themselves. Because as far as I'm concerned, they're the one that's causing a lot of the problem that we're dealing with right now. They just won't go and give a fair deal when making sure that, the funding per student is adequate, and that's what we've been calling for, and we'll continue to say more funding, adequate funding, to make sure teachers can do the job that we were asking them to do. There's so much being put on teachers, asking them to take over more and more and more with less supports, and that can continue, and I know we'll push all we can, and I know at some point we're seeing teachers, we're seeing parents, we're seeing people coming out making it very clear that they're not happy with the government's dealing with our teachers. They are professionals, treat them that way.
And I think, like I said to one of the students outside, my sister's a teacher. She's a kindergarten teacher in Buffalo Narrows. And the amount of time that she puts in, we spoke about extracurriculars, i.e. Wrestling and football. But extracurriculars mean something else for teachers because they're going home with homework that they wear on their sleeves and hearts, putting in their own time and money for classrooms. And these sanctions are very creative ways, I think, where we can start to see the ramifications of pulling back on that unaccounted for time. And we're going to see just how much these teachers do outside of the billable hours. That should give them a better leg to stand on the bargaining table. Does that make any sense?
Well, I agree 100%. I know it's not something they want to do, but unfortunately they're being pushed. What other choice do they have? This government has put government has placed them in the position that they have no choice to do sanctions that they are doing. And I know, and I've heard from teachers they don't want to do it, but unfortunately, what else do they want to do? They've been under so much pressure, and the funding, they need adequate funding. They need the supports in the classroom to make sure they can provide for our next generation. And our next generation deserves no better.
Last question. So do you think this issue of classroom sizes and overall teaching resources is one that is even more present or meaningful being in northern Saskatchewan or being near on reserve schools?
Well, for me, when I look at rural, north, remote, yeah, you have to make sure that the resources are there for our kids. Whether kids in a small school or a northern school, they should have the resources and the supports that they need to make sure they're successful. That is our next generation, and they will be the teachers, they will be the doctors, the lawyers, the politicians. We better be taking good care of them.
Because they'll take care of us.
There's going to be a time when they'll be taking people like myself that retire. We'll be asking them to look after us. We better do the job that we're supposed to do to make sure they can provide for us and take care of us when we're elders. And to me, let's take care of our students now, our young people, the next generation, and they'll take care of us. That's the way it should work. Respect.
Well, you've been nothing but incredibly hospitable here today to the students. It's very cold out, and you welcome them with open arms, saying, come into the office and warm up, come in and make your signs. You've been a great host, and we're happy to have you fighting for teachers and for the North.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so obviously we're very passionate about our Churchill Chargers, but are we passionate about the school and teachers in general? Clearly, because we're here.
Yeah, we're standing for the teachers.
Nice. So can I get a group chant? What's the chant that we're doing today for teachers?
Stand for the teachers.
Let's give me one of those.
Okay.
2, 3.
Stand for the teachers. 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 Stand for the teachers.
Okay, so we are joined here today by Mr. Patrick Mays, the president of the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation. I told you I would let you introduce yourself, but I had to on that one.
No problem.
Pat, as a caveat or in place of that, how long have you been with the STF?
So I've been president for 5 years. So yeah, in the current role for 5 years.
So thank you for joining us, Mr. Mays, and congratulations on the new tentative agreement that the STF has just worked its way into with the province and with other parties. Can you talk a little bit about that new tentative agreement?
Sure. Essentially, the offer from government really hasn't changed too much, and I think that's caused a little bit of consternation from our members, and kind of wondering why we would bring that tentative agreement back to them for their consideration. But that's part of the problem with global pandemic going on and with nobody certain as to what's going to happen to provincial and national and even international markets and budgets. We decided it was probably in our best interest to give members an opportunity to weigh in on where they stood on this. So we normally we did pass our proposals for this round of bargaining over a year ago with our counselors. And so they have to approve a package of proposals. and they have opportunities to weigh in on what they think should be included in that package or not, and then they all vote on it. And since then, of course, we met with limited gains through the province and ended up deciding that we would take a sanctions vote, and our members overwhelmingly supported that sanctions vote at about 92%, 91, 92%. And the problem is that since both of those votes, since both those times where members have had an opportunity to check in, so much has changed in the world. And so the pandemic has really turned everything on its side. And we wanted to check back in with members to make sure that that we're properly representing them. And the best way to do that is to offer them a vote and say, this is where we're at right now. If you want, we can keep fighting for some of the things that members believe are important to them and that we know that are important to members. And yet we also know that that there's the possibility that things that have already been offered will be rescinded going forward, given the state of the province's finances. And so one of the other items that has come up that is that we believe members should consider is government initially came up with a class composition committee in order to deal with one of the most important issues for our members, and that's class complexity and class composition. They were finding that students weren't getting the education they need, they weren't supported properly from the province, and class sizes and supports for students were diminishing. And so the government, in response to us putting this on as an item to negotiate at the bargaining table, decided to come up with a class composition committee. But unfortunately, the structure of that committee wasn't amenable to our needs. And they had 9 people on the committee and gave us 1 spot and said that 1 spot could not be filled with anybody on our bargaining team. And so we didn't want to be co-opted into a committee that we believed was destined to fail. And so we decided not to put a member on that and retain our right to keep class composition as an item to be negotiated into the provincial agreement. Since that time, government has come back to us and said they'll completely revamp the committee, and they will restructure it, and we will have a say in how it's restructured and the terms of reference. And so we decided that that does change things a little bit from our perspective. We know that the within the pandemic, the province has formed a response planning team, and the provincial response team has actually done good work, and we feel that they've listened to teacher concerns and made sure that teacher voice has been at the front of their decision making. And so with that, we want to give this class composition, or know that there's a potential that this class composition committee could work now, potentially. And so we want to put that in front of the members and say, does this meet your needs, and does the current contract offer then seem more reasonable? So it's basically an opportunity to check in and allow members to determine their destiny as far as whether they want us to keep at it and start in with sanctions again in September if they vote no, and potentially still be at the bargaining table, or if they've decided that this current offer meets their needs and that they feel that there's some potential for this class composition committee to work going forward.
Nice. So what I'm hearing is that there's been a little bit of a change that's come about in the recent kind of pandemonium of the pandemic, where this class composition committee has become maybe arguably more functional for the STF, and that some of the relationships that have come out of working around the pandemic have started to solidify and give good promise for some continued work between those entities in the future. We talked on the phone, it was 1 spot in the class composition committee, but has that expanded? Has that changed?
Yeah, so they've actually formulated the committee more along the lines of kind of the work that the provincial response planning team did. And so they've gone back to kind of traditional partners. And so there'll be 2 representatives now from each of the Saskatchewan Teachers Federation, the SSBA, the School Boards Association, the SASBO, the School Business Officials, and Leads members, and then 2 members from the ministry as well. And so it's kind of getting back to traditional partners in education, giving the STF two unrestricted seats, so they won't be telling us if, who we can assign to those positions, and we'll be able to find two people that are best matched with understanding the concerns that teachers are facing in their classrooms, and the concerns that government not supporting classrooms properly causes in Saskatchewan schools. So yeah, it's a bit of a, it is a bit of a gamble for our members. Do we think that this committee will be able to work? But ultimately, I would hope that government knows that we will be watching every step of the way. We will be insisting on seeing some form of tangible results coming out of this committee. And if we don't, then lo and behold, I'm pretty sure that class composition will end up on the bargaining table again in the next round. So, and of course, this is a 4-year deal with 1 year having already expired. So within about 2.5 years, we'll be right back at the bargaining table. So, so hopefully this gives government an opportunity to show that they're serious about fixing the complexities that teachers are experiencing, and that that students' learning conditions are being faced with, and hopefully they'll be able to get it right.
Nice. So just with that committee, this is speaking to the fact that the proposed settlement doesn't fully address all the items that the bargaining committee had sought at this round of bargaining. But as you say, it was felt necessary to go with this offer, and there will be some new opportunity via this committee to deal with those other intangibles around the difficulties that teachers face outside of just their pay. So that's a great thing. My sister is a kindergarten teacher up in Buffalo Narrows, and I know she is very happy to have a union looking out for her, as were the multitude of students that we had come out here in the Ronge standing up for their teachers and STF by proxy. So
yeah,
good news.
we know that what we have done in this current round, even if it is ratified, and if people think that this kind of goes away, then it doesn't. We've brought considerable attention to the issue of classroom composition, and of course we'll be on the class composition committee going forward, and we'll be paying close attention to it, because we know that 50% of our members said that it's even more important than negotiating salary to them. So they know that being able to reach your students and being able to go home at the end of the day feeling like you've done a good job and that you've had the opportunity to reach students and really make a difference is more important than salary to over 50% of our members. So so it's a huge issue. We want to give the opportunity for this class composition committee possibility to work, and then it falls back on government to make sure that that there's some results seen in our classrooms.
Excellent. And when will that vote be? Does it have a date?
Yes. Let me just check here. It is in about the 3rd week of May, and so yeah, we'll be conducting a ratification vote fairly quickly. And let me just check the exact dates. I think I've still got it in my. Let's see.
No worries, things are changing so fast.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like 19, 20, 21 of May will be the ratification vote. And so it's the first time ever that the STF will be conducting an electronic or online vote for members, province-wide, 13,500 members. And so we look forward to experiencing that as well, and see how that goes. And then also look forward, of course, to the result of the vote and see where members are at.
Excellent. Well, I believe it is said that in a proper bargain, both sides go away unhappy, but bargains need to be made, especially in times of difficulty. So thank you, Mr. Mays and the STF for everything that you do.
No, thank you. I can tell you I used to referee hockey for many years, including in the Western Hockey League. And sometimes when you go away and both teams are mad, that's when you know you did a good job. So that's exactly right. You go in and it's exactly what it's called, a negotiation. And so you go in, you don't expect to get everything. You certainly hope to get all that your members are wanting and represent them well. I think we've done that in this round. And of course, this is an unprecedented round as far as the complexity that's involved and the number of different twists that have gone on, right from going through conciliation and going through a sanctions vote, and then of course having a global pandemic turn things on its side as well. So just so many different things in this round, and we look forward to checking in with the members and seeing what they think about it.
Absolutely. In your own words, thank you for funding the future of education, because that's looking out for students is really, that's what it is. It's the future. So thank you for that and standing up for us.
No problem. Thank you, Brandon. I appreciate the interview.
Cheers. Have a good day.